So it's one thing to work in real estate, but it's another one to see the commercial landscape of Ottawa shifting in real time. From local development to national investment funds, how does a company like Avison Young stay ahead of the curve while keeping the community and collaboration at the heart of what they do? That's coming up next on the DORE Podcast. Welcome back to another episode of the DORE Podcast, where we talk to industry leaders, innovators, and local experts shaping Ottawa's real estate and property landscape. I'm your host, Dan Dore, and today we've got a fantastic guest joining us. Graeme Webster from Avison Young, and as I mentioned before, I had you on my list to have you on the podcast this year, so gotcha.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me, Dan.
So, because obviously you're one of the most respected names out there, so we're really excited to set that up and looking forward to this chat.
Same over.
Yeah. So Graeme brings years of experience navigating the Ottawa evolving market, from building strong client relationships to being a collaborative global team and redefining commercial real estate and how it operates. Mm-hmm. So Graeme, one of the questions I always like to start with is, how did you get involved into commercial real estate?
Wow. How much time do we have?
Mike tells me it's got to cut within 40 minutes. So
starting back in May of 2004, there was a big week where I graduated university. I got married to my high school sweetheart, and I started a job at Colliers International, which is a commercial real estate brokerage, national firm, excellent reputation. And I had no idea what commercial real estate was. And I had backed into basically an accidental job of being a research analyst. And it gave me 2 years to learn the business, be part of an incredible firm, to see what I would consider industry titans do their job, explain to me what was going on. I got to meet a whole bunch of people in the industry. So it was an incredible experience. I mean, they paid me for it too, which was pretty good. And I was young at the time. Yeah. It was a bonus. And, I literally knew nothing about real estate. I would drive by office buildings. I would have no idea that the tenants had leases, paid rent. It was a very naive approach to real estate. And I was brought in by, I guess the interest I had was really learning and the financial aspect, and just seeing an industry I knew nothing about, and applying my economics and philosophy background as well from school.
Yeah. That's what you studied in?
That's what I studied at Ottawa U, and I didn't go to my graduation. Instead, I went to Las Vegas, where I eloped with my high school sweetheart.
No way!
And we're still together today,
awesome.
Happily married with an 11-year-old boy. And going back to the Colliers days in research, seeing all the different aspects of the business, you have office leasing, industrial leasing, retail leasing, land sales, capital markets, which is a fancy word of saying sales. Mm-hmm. It really gave me a lot of aspects of how the business worked. And I think what I was attracted to most was really the sales, the investment, seeing how cash flow models worked, seeing why people bought what they bought, and really the incentives and human behavior behind that. So in 2006, I left research at Colliers, joined a team with a senior broker, John Seymour, in our office. And, if you remember back in 2006 to 2008, there were some rocky roads then.
Yeah.
And and a colleague, Mark Morin, joined the team from a leasing team, and we formed a team. And we didn't have a lot of success or experience in those first few years. But as we started to progress, the market got harder. So you've heard of subprime market and what happened 2007, 2008. So in 2007, this is a long story, but
that's interesting because it just shows. Please do share.
Oh yeah, okay, all right. I mean, it's not all glory and
but it's not meant to be, because I think there's always a correlation with people who do what that come up to. People need to know that it's not easy.
Oh yeah,
and it's not that you just get your you get out of university and all of a sudden you got this. But this is not the case. So absolutely do share. Yeah.
So. We didn't have a lot of success. At some point, Mark and I decided, the team's not working out. What can we do together? And, to be honest, this business is very lonely if you're doing it alone. So we formed a partnership. 50% of zero is better than 100% of zero. So, again, no experience. We had no mentorship in the office from a sales perspective. So if you can think of two guys in their 20s and early 30s trying to figure things out, scrambling, just trying to make anything happen, and then the subprime market hits. And essentially what that did to our market in Ottawa was it froze transactions. Nothing happened. And institutions weren't making decisions. Just transactions didn't happen. And that went on for about 8 months, where Mark and I are, we're on the phone, we're working really hard, but we didn't know where we were going. We didn't know what we needed to do. And so we felt really burned out. And there was a point where we went to each other and said, let's dust off our resumes. Like, this industry's killing us. And we got bills to pay, we got mortgages. And so I made a decision to go meet with a lender, the head of Alterna Savings at the time, Alan Jensen. And I wanted to have a coffee with him to ask him for a job, which is hilarious in hindsight. But so I met with him at a coffee shop in Westboro. And I was about to ask him for a job, and he said, hang on a sec, I know you want to talk to me about something, but I'd love for you to list this building up the street. And it was 424 Parkdale, which is the fire station building. Really iconic building, quite small, but came back to the office, chatted with Mark, and I didn't get the job. I got a listing, which was
probably better.
The irony in all of this. So we took on that listing, we sold it, we did a really good job working the market, and then, with life, you do one thing right, and it leads to a cascade effect of other transactions. So we had a string of what I would consider, early good luck. But that was one of those defining moments in my career where it could have gone one way. And I don't think it would have been a bad path, but it's like those moments where you get lucky, and I think everybody does.
Yeah.
That keeps you on the right path you're meant to go. So we did that, finished up mid-2008. We needed the mentorship and the experience. And so we were having meetings with Jason Schinder at District. Incredible industry titan. I think he is one of the brightest real estate brokers in the city, philanthropist, very generous community man. So Mark and I went over there. We learned so much about the business. We got exposed to so many different types of transactions. We saw how syndications worked. We saw how property management worked. And you think you know a lot about the business, and then you get into a new perspective or a new environment, and it opened our world to a lot of new possibilities. Jason was generous enough to allow us to invest in some real estate transactions, which is another eye-opener, like learning what it feels like to buy real estate as a broker changes your perspective. Yeah, I mean, now you feel the pain, the cash calls. So, the TI, like everything that goes into owning real estate, you're feeling it real time, and you can relate to your clients. So I think that's an important, we can get there after, but that was an incredible 5 years, and I'm forever grateful to Jason Schinder and that entire District Realty team, Charles Mursky, Steve Rampus at the time, who owned part of the company, and just the whole team. It was a great environment to learn. And then, two cocky young guys think they're getting a little bit of success, so let's go try it on our own. We can, there's no split. There's the grass was so green, and we were having, I consider it success at the time, and again, you get lucky. You get into situations where you make the right decision and things go well, and Mark and I decided to open a brokerage. We wanted to do things our way. We wanted to have a boutique firm where, I would also say there's pride in ownership. To say you own a brokerage also has an impact in our community. And, if you see any of the titles in real estate brokerage, it's hilarious. Vice president,
To me, I was always like, what does that mean?
What is that? What is the vice president? Is it JD Vance? Like, what? Who
exactly.
Is that? So I find, I find a lot of those titles are mainly, ego driven, and I think being an owner felt a little bit different. It just carried a little bit of a different weight at the time, and I think it gave us the confidence to have different conversations. So it wasn't easy. Even doing a website, doing all the copy for it, signing a lease, opening a line of credit, it's not attached to your family. Like, there were things I didn't realize you have to do as a business owner, and we had a very small business. It was just Mark and I at the time, and so I had my son in 2014. I should say my wife had her son in 2014, or I'm going to get in trouble. Yeah, but we had Elliot then, and we're opening a brokerage. And when you open a business, you also have to keep the lights on. So you're also doing transactions, and you're trying to really grow the brand and the image and serve clients and deliver excellence. So during those years, it was really tough, but when you're thrown into situations like that, it increases your capacity to deal with issues. So Mark and I were working, round the clock, burnt out, I would say, as we kind of got into that. And again, fearful anytime we would dip into lines of credit or just not be at a point we expected, it's terrifying. And it feels lonely when you have your own business too. So, those years were tough, but in any business, it's about the people, and we had the opportunity to bring Jessica Thalen into our company, and she started out literally as an admin helping us out, and very quickly we saw her skill set as somebody who could really help us grow the company. Also, she's an incredible broker as well. Like, she gets into the details.
Okay, so she was involved.
She's incredible. Yeah, okay. Not initially as an agent,
okay.
But she was what I would consider. What's the word I'm looking for? Just a key employee,
right? That
absolutely helped us step up our game, and it also gave us capacity at home. The irony with a business is most owners say they're doing it for their family.
Yeah.
But the flip side of that is it takes them away from their family.
I know. Yeah.
So having her helped us breathe a little bit of life into that. And at the start we were doing $2 to $4 million transactions. And by the end, our average deal size, we were doing 70, 50, $30 million transactions. So we went from a small lease on 100 Gloucester to buying our own building and renovating it and having a great clubhouse.
Oh, so you actually,
Yeah, and to bringing on what I would consider some of the best talented people in the industry, Sarah Vandenbelt.
Yep.
Justin Salazar, Nick Hanna.
Oh, Justin was with you as well?
Justin was with us. He's we're trying to do something right now together, and it warms my heart to see these people have success in other areas. Richard Getz did
I spoke to Richard last week.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I miss those people and I cherish them. And last but certainly not least, Ben Burns, who came in kind of towards the end. Ben got the raw end of the deal as we were deciding to shut down for a variety of reasons, which I'm happy to get into. Ben kind of came in and he's getting back into the commercial industry, and he's seeing things kind of close up. So Ben has, I would say Ben is one of the most talented agents that I've had the privilege of working with, and he's come a long way in the 3 years that we've worked together. So having him and Jess through that transition, and now they're with me, with Avison Young as we close down the company, and I'm forever grateful for all the steps we took. And again, we went through the subprime market, the pandemic, laying off people, and so much adversity, and yet so much success from a local small company. And collaboration is one of the things that you were asking about too. And as a small boutique brokerage where we were doing a disproportionate amount of capital market sales, other brokerages without representation here would come in. They would target COBOL, and we would almost co-broke. Okay. They would use us as their proxy locally, and we would help them secure business and execute. And that was an eye-opener too. I mean, there's always this tension between boutique and national firms. Yep. And I had my reservations being on both sides, but at the end of the day, running a business is a full-time job. Oh, yeah. And you can either work on the business or in the business.
And they're very different.
100% different. And
it's very different.
It's very hard to do both. I mean, on a Monday morning, the internet goes out, or there's a leak in the roof. It doesn't matter what deals you have on the go. If you have no internet, or there's a neighbor complaining about something on their lawn, you got to deal with that. And so again, capacity was improved, but at the same time, what it did is really helped me focus on who's the person that I want to be at home, what kind of husband do I want to be, what kind of father do I want to be, what kind of teammate do I want to be. And running a business was very difficult for me to get to a place where I thought I needed to be. So Mark and I amicably shut down the company. We decided to go our separate ways, and the area that I focused on was more the investment, the retail, office, industrial, and as did he. And And now he's doing his own thing, and I'm really proud of the work that he's doing. And you know, we hang out and chat really and catch up. He's a great guy, and you know, we were really good friends and still are. And it's fun to look back and say we did this together. And I was talking to Justin Salazar earlier today, and every time I talk to somebody from Coble, there's a warmth that comes out of that. So
I didn't know that. I didn't know. I met Justin. I want to say a couple of years ago. Because this guy kept calling, the office kept calling me. Somebody's calling about one of your buildings. They want to buy your building. They want to buy your building. I don't have time for this, right? And then finally, I'm like, oh, he's so persistent. Like, I better meet with him. And it was him. And it was an interesting. He's such a nice guy.
He's got such a great energy, and you just want to be around him. So I've been, in a privileged position where I've had these incredible people around me that have helped me get to where I want to be in life. And I think business and life are so intertwined. You need to know where you're going in both.
Absolutely.
And you need to surround yourself with the people that can help you get there. So it's been a fun journey, and
we're still on it.
We're still on it. I mean, it's been 2 years as of yesterday at Avison Young.
I saw that.
The LinkedIn thing came up, and I forgot
this morning. I'm like, hey, it said 2 years. I said it's an anniversary today.
There's so many anniversaries. Jess has been with us almost 10 years, and Ben 3, and so there's lots to celebrate. But it's been 2 years. Avison Young has been an incredible partner. Yeah, they're almost a business partner, right? They provide a service. It's a network of professionals that are industry leading. Yeah, even in the office and other markets. So it's been an incredible journey, and the culture of the people that they have there is wonderful. It's like walking into an office. Yeah, and I would have coffee with any one of the individuals. I would want to hang out with them, outside of work, and I think that's a really important. You don't have to be best friends with
anyone. It speaks to you as well.
Well,
it's funny because what I'm hearing when I'm hearing all this. I think you mentioned 3 or 4 times that you were lucky, and I'm like, luck has to do with it. But you were making those decisions. You were pushing. You were going to ask. You were going to do this. So I look at that and say, luck serves something. Yeah. But you have to play your part, and clearly you are. So
for sure,
for you. That's for sure. I started my own business, and I'm like, we have luck, but it's easy to give up. It's easy to just not do it or not ask or not push. Yeah. So luck plays a role for the people who just keep pushing. Yeah. At some point you'll hit a lucky break. So I heard that like 3 or 4 times. I'm like, but as a guy who started his business, I'm like, luck, yes, but you gotta, you've done your part. Yeah. So
I don't think it's skill or part of it is.
I know you're humble, so I can feel that. But I just want to highlight that because people who are in business, I think sometimes I don't think it's. To think that it's just lucky, well, luck plays a role, but you have to play your part.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't just happen. You have to be doing something. I mean, a lot of the stuff that you just talked about, there's a tremendous amount of sacrifice in there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
To just keep muscling through.
And
thank God. A lot of people would have given up.
Yeah, I mean,
right? So
absolutely. And it's not all roses, like in some of the sacrifice. Like you got to see what you're leaving in your wake. Yeah. So if you're, if you're going to the office till 10 p.m. at night, or you're in the office Saturday and your marriage, like your wife is expecting you home for dinner. It's, and I would say, and that ties into the discipline I have today around some of the decisions I make, but
good for you.
You've got to learn. You can't it's not an academic exercise to say these are the priorities. You've kind of got to go through the fire to really feel where you need to be and the decisions that you need to make. But, back to the lucky part, sometimes I wake up and I say, like, it's amazing the steps that have been taken. And then I'm here.
Yep.
So
good for you.
There's a lot of gratitude.
No, well, I can. Well, that's amazing. Yeah. Obviously, I'm sure that plays a big role in making all of this come out. It's so funny because we're talking about kids. I forget. It was yesterday, and I said, have the discussion, and sometimes my wife, I said, I don't necessarily share everything I'm doing every day because I don't want to. I'm still processing all these different things that are going sideways, So I said, and it's funny, we are doing an interview just before this for a lady that potentially come to work for us, and I said, and we were talking about family. I said, I said one of the things I've been consciously trying to do is, you get all this whirlwind happening during the day, whether it's this company, this client, this deal, this team member, something's happening, and I said, but I've got my health. And I get home and I said, what I do, and I said, like yesterday I got home, I opened the door and I just take 30 seconds just to hear the harmony in the home.
Yeah.
The wife laughing and the kids and you're like, man, I've got everything. The rest is just a bonus.
And your blood pressure comes down.
Yeah. But it's just everything else is just a bonus.
Yeah.
If it works, great. But I've got everything, right? So
I'd say that's a rare perspective. We hyper focus on the things that are going wrong that we can't control. But it's kind of
normal because we're trying to address them. But you have to take the time to just, hey, and just what's important here. This is what's important, right? So
good for you.
That's awesome.
Being present.
No, that's great. Yeah, no, that's great. So obviously, and Avison Young plays a global role, I believe.
Yeah.
Right. So how does that work with Canada, with Ottawa? Like, does that help? Does that help leverage? Is it like what? Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, so it's an international company. It's owned by principals. So a lot of the agents that work there have ownership in the company, which I think is pure accountability in terms of how we show up and what we do, which was really attractive for me when I was talking to some of the larger brokerages. But in terms of how it all works, again, going back to COBOL, we were almost like an island in Ottawa on our own. And it felt very, using that as a contrasting situation, it felt very isolated. So you almost don't know what's going on in other markets. I mean, you have buddies from Colliers or other shops that are in, Toronto and Vancouver, but to have the connection with the equivalent capital markets team. I lead the one here, and for me to talk to somebody in Chicago or in Toronto or in Vancouver, it gives me perspective in terms of what's happening on a national level. Again, part of that is gratitude for the city we live in. When I'm having conversations with them about some of the dynamics in their market, it definitely gives me appreciation. But it connects us all.
In a sense that Ottawa is more stable, or?
I think it's an incredible market. I mean, there's so many reasons. Absolutely, it's stable. I mean, our unemployment's below 6%. 1 in 4 people work for the feds. Traffic is easy. I mean, from Barhaven to here, it's 20 minutes. Cottage country is 30 minutes away. At this time, So construction at 4 p.m. It's a different story. But again, compared to when we have clients come in from Toronto, and they experience something as simple as traffic, and your cottage is 45 minutes away, or that's a lifestyle. And so, the affordability factor is huge too. To buy a single family home here is very different than if you were buying a home in Toronto or in Vancouver. So lifestyle is everything. And I think when you have a thriving community that feels, psychologically safe from an employment perspective, it cascades into the community. People are spending more money. And again, we're in a bit of an interesting market right now. But when you have the highs and lows of the Calgarys and the Torontos and the, arguably Vancouver, Ottawa is so stable. And again, we've seen the tech boom and bust, and typically the government absorbs a lot of that unemployment. And so it's very balanced. And from an investment perspective, people love that because stability is as certain as you can get, and it removes an element of risk. So I was born and raised here. I'm biased. I love the city. It's a great place to raise a family. And what I hear from out-of-town clients is really enhancing what I've said. It's got all the infrastructure to be a great city too. It's the 6th largest, but it's got everything. Yeah, I know.
So, but it's fun to be able to compare the other markets, and to have that in-house. Get perspective, and I mean, even for somebody that's outside and looking in, and you being able to provide those attributes brings comfort, I'm sure, to some looking in to come to Ottawa. So good for you.
They call it a secondary market. Like the bigger city guys are. They're like, it's a big town.
For us, it's big.
Call it what you want. It's a great place.
So, and in commercial real estate has faced like major swings in the last few years, and even, and as I was mentioning, like during Leonard Commercial last year, and for me, I've been involved in multi-res for 20 years, but as an owner and manager, not as a realtor. Somebody who's looking to buy something, sometimes like we do consulting, but I wasn't involved, and now I'm involved in the deals, but it's fascinating to see like every category and how you can see how everything's trying to evolve over the years. So what are you seeing that's coming up or down, or
I mean, that's a big question. And I mean, every time I have a conversation about the market with somebody, it almost changes. Right now, there's not a lot of data points in terms of comparable sales, transaction volume. It's the lowest it's been since Q3 of 2020, which was, take you back to the pandemic, right? Bit of a freeze.
Right.
So Just to take you back a little bit, in 2021, I remember doing a deal, and it was at the corner of Baseline and Fisher, the Lone Star.
Oh, yeah.
That we sold to a client, and interest rates, everybody was spending money, people were buying assets, the world was looking rosy, lockdowns had ended, retail had succeeded, it had made it through. Liquidity was huge. It was easy to get loans from the bank, and rates were about 2 to 2.1%. I'll never forget that loan in September of 2021. And we saw the massive rate hikes accelerate through essentially the next year. 350, 400 basis points. And that really changed. If you think about the spread between interest rates and cap rates, it should have reflected a really poor market, but cap rates didn't move in the same way that interest rates move. So, they kind of decoupled in terms of their alignment, and that was really interesting to watch. Like, if anybody says they can predict what's going to happen in commercial real estate, I don't buy it.
Yeah, and I haven't met one.
So yeah, so if so, I'll tell you. Yeah. Anybody that says they're an expert, have some humility. Things can change.
Exactly.
But interest rates started to creep down, and during that time, institutions left the market in terms of acquiring new assets, and they play a big role in our city. They buy the big office towers, and when you remove that side of the demand equation from the buyers, institutional, you're left with private capital, some syndicators, and some developers that are going to try and fill that void of demand. And they never showed up in the same way, and so transaction volume diminished. I would say there was a big change in terms of what was in demand. It went from pre-pandemic, office buildings were very attractive, very stable, very predictable, or for the most part, and work from home really changed that. It was a scary asset, and a lot of people, it can be, and I think you've got and you've got to understand the nuances. Not all office is created equal,
right?
But going back to where we're at today, so rates have come down. A lot of the smaller mid-market transactions are still occurring with private capital. Lenders are still really challenging. Some will say no, depending on the asset class. You've got to have major security, a strong covenant. They want to see some experience. Anytime there's hair on a deal, a bank is looking for a reason not to do a deal for the most part, because they don't want to expose themselves to unnecessary risk. And neither do buyers, quite frankly. They're demanding quality, and they're not taking on unnecessary risk that you could probably overlook.
And when you mentioned they're looking for quality, when the lender's looking for quality, you're looking for quality asset or the quality of the buyer?
Everything.
Both.
Yeah, and experience. I would add to that. If you're buying an office building today,
but if you don't know what you're doing,
you've got to have deep pockets. You've got to have a strong asset in a great location with historical occupancy that's superseded what we would have expected in the pandemic. And you've got to be a good operator, or you've got to have a plan for that management. And the banks are looking at these deals, and they don't want to lend to anybody. I would say of the asset classes, office is the most complex, and an asset that if you're not comfortable with, it's not something you want to do alone. Like you've got to have a professional management company, understand the nuances of the CapEx, the TIs, throwing all these acronyms at you.
But that's important. But absolutely.
But financing and lease expiry, it's like you have to have that strategy so tight. Whereas if a retail plaza, I don't mean to say this off the cuff, but like we have some ownership in some plazas in the suburbs. When a tenant leaves, there's a lineup of 5 in the suburban retail market right now. For office, it's very different. So know what you're doing. Lenders are very strict on that, on who they're lending.
It's interesting. Is it lenders in the last week and a half or so? One of the things that I've been trying to do is, because obviously lenders play a big role. If these things, you can bring a nice asset and you bring a buyer, but if they can't get the loan, the deals aren't going anywhere. So I've been doing a lot of meetups and coffees with different lenders, trying to get a sense of the appetite. Like what asset class, what works with RBC as opposed to BDC versus TD versus, and trying to get a sense of who's has appetite for what. And it's because obviously if you like, we have an office building in the outskirts that we have under contract, and we'd had a bit of interest, and there was some of the lenders that expressed concerns for XYZ reasons. But then as you go through it, you're trying to get a sense of like who you're going to lose for lending, and trying to get an idea of the reason.
Yeah.
And that, what is happening. Then you realize that there's different aspects that they're looking at depending on the lender. And some lenders, they'll say, yeah, we'll do it. They have no intention of doing it.
Yeah.
Or if it's an existing client. So that's what I was asking, is it just a quality asset, quality of the buyer? Because sometimes a lender has a relationship with this client that wants to buy this asset. They don't necessarily want to say no, even though it's not the asset they want. So I've been trying to get my head around the different options depending on what comes down the pipe. So it's
a really good point.
Yeah.
And we see, you talk to one lender that you have a relationship with, and you bring an asset to them to get underwritten, a discussion paper, a commitment letter, and funded, and they'll look at you and they'll say, it's a terrible market, office is bad. They'll have their own perspective that I would say shapes the buyer. So it depends on the asset, of course, but a bank's perspective is very different from bank to bank, as you say. Some say absolutely not, sky's falling.
Yep.
There's a lot of other lenders that will say, this is a great opportunity, you're a great operator, the cash flow is phenomenal. Mm-hmm. You've mitigated all these factors, we like the deal, we're going to lend on it. So, I think in times of uncertainty, where we see lending all over the map and, a lack of liquidity, I think it's really important to work with a professional that I love working with brokers, give a shout out to ICI and CMLS and some of the groups similar to that, but they bring a really broad and big perspective on who's active and who's not, because in every market that changes. I mean, it's like having a toddler, right?
No.
they start to walk and then they start to do something else and trying to keep track of who's.
And it changes because I think depending on because obviously I did a lot more multi-res. That's more the type of asset that I'm most involved with, but it's interesting because for us there's a whole component of the MLI Select CMHC program, and a lot of these deals you're not extracting value for the seller unless you make use of that program with the buyer. So there's a lot of minutia that comes with that, and whether the qualifications happen depending on the location, the buyer, the resources, it's quite phenomenal. So it's fascinating to go through those, and they're lengthy. Like, I mean, and you just never know where they're going to go. So,
and that's a driver of value, right? If it doesn't,
then you're
get
the
not, MLI Select. It's a very different situation.
Well, in most cases, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So then you're like, okay, seller, yes, I agree. You don't want a 6-month, commitment to keep your building under contract, but if you want to let them go through the process, you'll probably extract value. If not, then you'll get X amount of dollars less. You're better off to play the game.
Or VTB, or bridge the gap.
Right, exactly. So it's
you got to be creative.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. No, that's good. And I know, and I mean, obviously we did some research also, like Avison Young, there's a lot of emphasis on collaboration and the team culture. And, so explain for the people and anybody that's thinking of getting involved in commercial real estate, like what does Avison Young bring that that outshine perhaps other brokerages?
So in terms of collaboration, I would say from, again, where I started, not knowing anything or having experience, collaboration is big because it also takes the pressure off. I don't have all the answers and I don't know all the people, but knowing that I can call appraiser or lender, having the network of professionals that you can call has been the differential in my career, like having that, to help clients, ultimately serve them. But in terms of how it relates to Avison Young, we almost have a subculture on our team. And the team is myself, Jessica Thalen, Benjamin Burns, and now Ryan Bruner, who's an amazing addition that we've recently added. But our culture internally is we've got each other's back, and that plays into balance in life, which we can also chat about. But it's the most collaborative team approach in the office. My point about liking the people you work with, it's so apparent. The generosity within the office to help out, to go to meetings, and to bring in that expertise has been incredible. So I've only worked at one other national firm. I've been at 2 boutiques, one of which we owned. And so I don't have a comparison.
Yep.
But even beyond our office with other, with Toronto, or whether it's help from marketing or underwriting, it's a very client-first approach.
Nice.
And then team-first approach. So
Nice.
if there's a reason to help out, you're going to help out. And I love it. I feel lucky to be at Avison Young.
Yeah.
It wasn't always clear where I was going,
Yeah.
but I'm glad to be here.
And I think they're lucky to have you, so that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things, obviously, that's quite evident is you're proud to be a dad, and I mean, obviously, you talked about balancing work life, and obviously how challenging it can be. So how do you succumb to that? How do you deal with that challenge day to day?
Have you figured it out?
No, I'm looking for advice.
Oh boy, I think
I want to see if I can get some tips here.
I would say every season of life is different,
Yeah.
and where you focus your time. I'm a big proponent of what you say yes to, you're saying no to something else. And I think when you're young in the business, your most accessible resource is time, right?
Yeah.
You're looking to trade that time for money, for knowledge, for whatever it is. And I think as you get older through your career, and if you don't address some of the things some of the trade-offs early in your career, it becomes a habit into your, call it more senior years in the business, and more importantly, important years with your child's life or your marriage, whatever it is. So, for me, having a strong team around me of really excellent people that I think are like-minded in values, family is very important to all of us. Integrity, not to go through the cliches of all the values, but I think these people are living.
It helps satisfy both sides. Yeah.
And so building a strong team who really keeps you accountable to the promises you make to your family is, next week I'm going to Washington, D.C. with my son to take him to a Capitals game. And
good for you.
And the Smithsonian, he's a big aviation fan. And so the team knows that's really important to me, and as a result, they're going to make sure it's not them serving me, it's us serving each other. Mm-hmm. And so that helps with balance, but it's an industry that can also consume you. There's a gala every night of the week.
I know.
There's a charity breakfast, it feels like every week, or you can go out, having beers with landlords every night of the week. So if you get into some habits that will pull you away from the things that you want to accomplish, it can be a slippery slope. Mm-hmm. Again, cliche word, but or term.
Yep.
So I think reassessing what the priorities are in every season and saying, if family truly is important to me, am I saying no to the things that are preventing me from getting closer to my family? And I'm at a spot right now where I rarely miss a dinner. If it happens from time to time. Yeah. And, my son plays pickleball on Monday night, which is hilarious. I get to play with him, so I'm coming in a suit.
Oh, okay, you're playing with him. That's awesome.
We're having fun. It's there's an educational component, so we're having fun doing that. But those are again, not to get too cheesy or personal, but as you reflect on life, I'm 45, so not super old, but you start to see that those smaller moments with your family are the more meaningful ones, the unplanned things. And so if I'm at the office till 7 or 8 at night, or if I'm working on a weekend, it steals all the opportunity to have those moments with my family. And, I think to have the foresight to say at the end of my career, what are the relationships that I want to invest in while I'm working really hard and delivering excellence? And for me, it's really key clients that I love. It's my team who I love, and, my family and friends. So living that change, saying no to the 5 p.m. drinks on Queen Street, or we're not going to a gala because it's not going to, be a return on energy or resources to the person that you want to be. So for me, it's be intentional, and let your actions get you to where you want to be, or just don't complain. If you're not there, just stop complaining. So.
Yeah, no, that is awesome. We're gonna have to book another time to meet. I think that's amazing.
Well, and sorry, the other, I will shameless plug. I mean, the other thing is skiing, right? Like ski trips are another thing that's really important to me, as you know from some of the past guests. So so just put the big rocks in your schedule, fill it with the smaller rocks, and then fill it with sand, and then you're going in the right order.
And make sure that those are there. The rest is a bonus. So
good. When you do it the other way, it's the world can crumble pretty quickly.
No, that's awesome. I love that. We have more in common than you think.
Okay.
And you'd mentioned that one of the top voices that you had, or maybe not top voices, but you had the strip mall guy. That was that when we were asking about interest and all that. You mentioned that, and I had to do some research on it. It's quite fascinating, actually. So tell me how that came to be, or I got the sense that maybe in commercial real estate, like he was just one that went like way out there.
He went viral. He's he's a broker from California that moved to New York. I think he had his brokerage career there. And Don Tepman is his name. He hid behind the alias, like nobody knew who he was for years, which was kind of, it was cool to see his face, a few years ago. But he's entertaining. He's lived the brokerage life. He's now buying retail malls across the country. And what I find refreshing about him, he brings an energy and a humor and transparency to some of the things the traps we fall into in brokerage. So part of it is just pure entertainment. When I open up LinkedIn,
of course,
I love James Clear, who wrote Atomic Habits.
One of my favorite books.
Yeah, mine too. So seeing James, seeing the strip mall guy, it's just kind of like, it's a funny thing that you do in the morning, which is see that. And I think for any young broker, look at the mistakes that he's seeing. Look at the things that he's saying, and I think you can learn a lot from that. Yeah, for me, it's entertainment.
Transparency was, I was going to say, he's very transparent about everything. Yeah. And it was interesting because I was trying to get a sense of who he was before we met, and I watched a few of his podcasts, try to get a sense, because he's sharing the story, but the angle where he's buying these malls, but he's essentially buying them, stabilizing them, or getting, and then he's flipping them.
Yeah.
And one of them was like, well, why aren't you keeping them? And he's like, you could see there was like some hesitation about, then I don't get this much return. And but anyway, so it was interesting because it's the concept of milking a cow versus having beef but it's interesting when it's looking at that, because it's it's a different mentality, and it's two very different worlds as well. If you're buying it with the intention to flip it, it's a very different process than
different
buying
strategy
it and then keeping it for hold. And so I found it interesting. So
are you following him now?
No.
Okay.
I don't know specifically because I don't follow anybody.
Okay.
Because I'll get distracted too quickly. So I've got enough on my plate with the real estate, the property management, the buildings that we're doing, and the involved in the painting company and all that good stuff. So I'm trying to keep focused on what I'm doing. So
sounds like you may need to say no to some things.
No. I try to keep the narrow. My daughter said that the other day because I was saying something. She says, we should put you blinders like this, Dad. I'm like, yeah, maybe you should.
I love it. Yeah, I need that too.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So I want to be respectful of your time, Graeme. I think it was easy. Eh?
Oh my God.
I could just keep going.
15 minutes.
This is why Mike puts a timer here, so I don't.
Oh my God. Okay. Wow.
So Graeme, what a nice chat. We're gonna have to chat after this, but I'm really glad that we're able to do this today, and I get to meet you because, like I said, I'd heard about you from different people, so I knew we were at some point we're going to meet, and hopefully we're going to do some business.
I'd love that. I'd love to hang out and chat again. This was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you. So if anybody wants to learn about Avison Young or you, what's the best way to connect with you?
Probably LinkedIn. So just my profile on LinkedIn. I'm off all other social media platforms, which again, getting
good for you.
dialed in. Or avisonyoung.com website. You can find me there. Okay, good. Yeah, and everybody that's on LinkedIn, I think it's like, obviously I actually look at all of your stuff, so I think it's always impressive to see the stuff you're working on, and I'm sure the clients that you represent and the ones that you help are benefiting a lot from your experience, your humility, and being able to help them throughout. So good for you. Thank you.
Yeah. So, and to all the listeners, thanks for tuning in for another episode of the DORE Podcast. And don't forget to like and turn on your notifications so you never miss another conversation. See you next time.